Hi, and welcome to this video. In this video, I want to talk to you about good communication skills. And I stress the word good there because good, according to the Speech Acts, is an assessment. And an assessment is neither good nor bad. It just indicates a preference for, what we like and what we want to hear. So what is involved with communication? Well, you and I, we probably are aware that communication involves both the verbal components as well as the non-verbal components. And within ontological coaching, these are broken down into the three-step BEL model of body, emotions, and language. And the language consists of the 6 speech acts. And the 6 speech acts are requests, offers, promises, assertions, assessments, and declarations. I covered the 6 speech acts in other videos, so you're welcome to check them out. The nonverbal components of communication involve both the body and the emotions. Now, it's interesting because the emotions are not something we talk about a lot. We talk mostly about, the physical body disposition of how we want to show up in conversation, thinking body language is the be-all and end-all of nonverbal communication skills. Now, what is interesting to me is that, there has been research done, and which I've read, that suggests that upwards of maybe 70 to 80 to even 90% of all communication is nonverbal. So according to that BEL model of body, emotions, and language, the body and the emotions account for 3/4 to 90% of all communication. And that's tremendously significant. And this is one of the things that I work with my clients is we practice noticing the way we show up in conversations with our body, with the physical dispositions that we bring. And we also notice what kind of emotions and moods that we bring to our conversations. So let me recap that for you. We have the verbal components of communication, which include the 6 speech acts, which are requests, offers, and promises, assertions, assessments, and declarations. We also have the nonverbal components of communication of body and emotion. Together, they account for 100% of communication, but the significant portion of communication is nonverbal. But let's take a moment to focus on the verbal component, because that's, I think, where a lot of the focus is and what we're used to and what we've, studied and practiced for a long, long time. So what does it mean to have good communication skills? Well, from that coaching that I bring and the work that I do with my clients, I personally believe that good communication skills means that you have effective conversations, that you and I engage in conversations that are effective, that result in outcomes that are satisfactory, that have meaning, and that have value to us. And do you remember way back in the beginning of the video when I told you that good was an assessment? Well, value and meaning, those are also assessments. And satisfaction definitely is an assessment. So it's just a preference for what it is that we want to get out of the conversation. So what do we need to do to become better at communication? What do we need to do to have more effective conversations, to get that kind of satisfaction, get those outcomes that we desire within our conversations? And this is what I do with my clients. I invite them to notice which of the speech acts that they use in all of their conversations. Not only that, I invite them to notice what kind of emotions they bring when they enter into any conversation. And finally, I invite them to notice what kind of body shape they enter conversations. All 3 of these are related. And that BEL model, it's kind of like an equilateral triangle. You've got the body on one end, you've got the emotions, and you've got the language on the other. What this means is one thing does not override another. The body is related to both the emotions and the language. The emotions are related both to the body and language, and the language is related both to the emotions and the body. That is to say, when you affect one or the other of these components, you're going to affect the other too. What I mean by this is that, for example, the language that we speak creates a range of possibilities for the kind of emotions that we can experience. And the emotions that we're going to experience indicate a certain type of body shape. For example, if you are hunched down and are talking like this with your eyes down on the floor when you're asking your boss for a raise, it's kind of difficult to get a satisfactory outcome out of that conversation. And it also kind of reduces your vocabulary to something like, excuse me, I'd like a raise. It reminds me of that movie Office Space, when that guy is going on about his stapler, this, and he gets shoved all the way down to the office, and nobody knows that he was fired or that he even works there. Anyway, that's what it means to take control of your conversations. That's what it means to have good communication skills, so that you know what kind of language that you have available to you. And knowing the language that is available means that you also bring about the appropriate emotions and the appropriate body disposition to your conversations. So how do we do that again? Well, we simply notice. What are you saying? How are you saying that? What kind of emotions do you bring? Do you notice the emotions that you're in? Do you notice the emotions of the people around you? How do those affect you? Do you notice how you stand up? Do you notice how you sit down? Do you notice how you move about during the day? These are some of the things that we need to work on to really get to becoming skilled at communication. Because when we're skilled at communication, we become skilled at conversations. When we are skilled at conversations, we can definitely take charge of those conversations and derive meaning, value, and satisfaction from those outcomes. Now, good communication skills aren't about one-sided conversations. You and I, we engage in conversations with other people. There could be one other person, there could be more than one other person. Whatever the case, that conversation is like an entity. It's kind of organic. You come into the conversation with your emotions. You come into the conversation with your body disposition and the language that you're speaking. Other individuals who are part of that conversation come with their own body dispositions and their own emotions and their own vocabulary. And out of all of this, within that conversation, we're all going to engage in the speech acts. We're going to engage with emotions. We're going to engage with the bodies to create value, meaning, and satisfaction that benefits each of those individuals that participate in the conversation. And since satisfaction is an assessment, each of those individuals that participate in the conversation will make their demands known, make their conditions of satisfaction known for that conversation. So to summarize, good communication skills means taking control of conversations. And that means you know exactly which of the speech acts you are engaged in, which of the speech acts serve that you and serve that conversation. Not only that, you also understand the nonverbal components of communication, which are both the emotions and the body dispositions, and you bring those into the conversations so that the result is something effective. The result is something valuable. The result is something meaningful to you and to the other participants in the conversation. I hope this has helped you to understand what good communication skills are from the perspective of ontological coaching to bring about so that you can derive satisfaction, you can declare satisfaction within your conversations. If you have any questions or comments about this video, please share them below and I'll get to you as soon as I can. Thank you very much for your time. Take care, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.